60 Minutes Rewind.
The war in Iraq is nearly over for America, but not for the Americans who fought there. The legacy of wounded warriors will be with us for a generation. Recently, we heard about a therapy program that takes troops who've recovered from their physical wounds and brings them back to Iraq, back to confront the memories, back to work through the feelings of anguish many soldiers have when they head home, leaving their buddies to fight on without them. A total of 68 soldiers and Marines have been on this remarkable journey. We went along with the latest group of 8 as they return to the battlefield for what they call Operation Proper Exit. For most of them, it had been a long time since they'd flown on a military transport or worn the uniform. They'd been wounded years ago, and several were civilians now. But for 1 week, in Operation Proper Exit, they were proper soldiers and Marines again. As the C-130 lumbered over the desert, they crowded the windows to look across the battlefields and the memories of the war that had changed their lives. An honor guard awaited them in Baghdad, and so did uncertainty. They didn't know how or whether this program would help them. First off the plane was Marine Corporal Matt Bradford, returning to the place that has haunted him the last 4 years.
I wake up in the middle of the night and can't go back to sleep because I keep thinking about, getting blown up, laying there on the ground.
Bradford was blown up in 2007. He was 20 then, inspired to join the Corps by 9/11. The last thing he saw in Iraq, the last thing he ever saw, was the wire that turned out to be a roadside bomb. He was blinded and lost both legs. Bradford came back to reimagine that final vision of Iraq.
Still, I always has that picture in the back of my head, of looking down and seeing, the wires going into the pipe, that, shrapnel going straight in my eyeballs.
Some folks would think that after what happened to you, you'd never want to get anywhere close to this place again.
Ever since I've been hurt and stuff, I've had a lot of people tell me I couldn't do something. I told them I would return back to Iraq, someday. I don't let people get me down on anything. If they tell me I can't do something, I'm going to go find a way to do it.
No means go.
Can't's not in my vocabulary.
He trusts only a handful of people with the job of being his eyes.
Ed Salau came to be Matt Bradford's guide, but he also served in Iraq and paid for it. In 2004, then Army Lieutenant Salau was leading a patrol of armored vehicles, and on the way back to the base, they were hit. He and his gunner each had a leg blown off.
We won that fight. We lost a couple of legs. Life's different. I jokingly say I had 10 really good months and 1 really bad day.
Salau blames himself for leading his patrol into an ambush, and like a lot of soldiers and Marines we've talked to, he feels guilty about leaving his men when he was medevaced out of Iraq.
You felt like you let them down.
Absolutely.
By leaving.
Absolutely.
When you first heard about Operation Proper Exit, what did you think?
I had to come back. You know what? This place doesn't take from you what you don't give it.
Coming back here means a lot to me.
Of the 8, returning may have been toughest for Stephen Cornford. To look at him, you don't see scarring. There are no amputations. He left Iraq and was awarded the Silver Star for valor. But they don't give away Silver Stars for nothing. And when we sat down with Cornford, we learned what post-traumatic stress disorder is all about.
When you were coming over here for Operation Proper Exit, did you wonder whether you were doing the right thing?
Sometimes. My wife brought up a good point when I told her I wanted to do it. She's like, what if it makes it worse? What if it brings it all back? Because for a while, I would sleepwalk and scream in my sleep and stuff, and I haven't been doing that a lot lately, but when I found out I was coming back for about a week before, I started doing it again, and it really scared her.
His nightmares are rooted in Easter Sunday 2007. Stephen Cornford's platoon assaulted an enemy machine gun nest. He was hit in the left shoulder. His lieutenant, Philip Neal, sprinted forward to help, but was cut down. Through enemy fire, Cornford reached the lieutenant, and he tried to stop the bleeding from the artery in the lieutenant's leg.
I didn't have much pressure with my left arm, so once I found the spot on him that had the worst injury where it was bleeding the most, I tried to stop it by laying on it with pressure dressing on it.
And this whole time you're returning fire?
Yes, sir.
Cornford threw 2 hand grenades into the machine gun nest, and then he carried Lieutenant Neal a mile to a medevac helicopter that took them both to a field hospital. The lieutenant didn't make it, and Cornford cannot forgive himself.
And they pronounced my lieutenant dead. The last thing I remember before they put me out for surgery and blood transfusions and stuff like that was they all salute when they pronounce somebody dead. And I was fighting the nurses and the doctors with the one good arm I did have to get up and salute, and they wouldn't let me get up. And finally I just blacked out and woke up the next morning in a lot of pain.
How old were you?
18 years old.
Why did you come back here?
To try and let it go. It's something that haunts me every day.
What is it that you're trying to let go?
I see his face every time I close my eyes to go to sleep at night. I blame myself a lot because I got hit first and he was coming to get me. I want to be able to lay it to rest like he is, because I know he's in a better place. I know he would want me to.
We want to welcome you back.
Operation Proper Exit helps Cornford and the others lay down some of the burden by bringing them back not just to a place, but to a time that they were proud of.
Thanks for all you guys did and do and continue to do.
The trip is a tour, and every stop is part of the therapy. Back with the troops,
You're still walking down the wing, you're about halfway down.
the machines, and the weapons that were their strength.
Hell yeah! Yo!
They all love putting the uniform back on. It motivates them, it takes them back to something that they love, absolutely love.
Rick Kell started Operation Proper Exit and leads the trips. In Iraq, he's in uniform, but he's never been in the military. Kell is a retired advertising executive who was a volunteer at Walter Reed Army Medical Center.
How did this idea occur to you?
It really didn't occur to me. It was presented to me by a corps of wounded warriors at Walter Reed that I saw frequently. In every conversation that came up, I want to go back. I need to go back.
In a sense, for many of these young men and women, they didn't leave Iraq. They were unconscious.
They were taken from Iraq. When they arrived home last time, there were no homecomings. Many woke up after comas of 3 weeks or more, significantly different in many ways. A lot of it's a blur, and they have to put those pieces back together, and they do. Many do. And but the one piece they couldn't put back was the piece of exiting and leaving the way they thought they would leave, with their team, with their battle buddies.
In 2008, Kell brought the idea to the Pentagon, and they turned him down. Then, Ray Odierno, the commanding general in Iraq, heard about Kell. Odierno's son had been wounded.
Thanks for all your help.
Have a good flight, sir. You're welcome.
And the general gave Kell the go-ahead for Operation Proper Exit. Today, a total of 68 troops have been on Kell's journey. The tour that we joined was the 9th Proper Exit. The hardest stops on the itinerary confront that day, years ago, when they were wounded. First stop, the Air Force Theater Hospital. Lives were saved and friends were lost in this emergency room. The medical staff had changed, but everyone understood what these men had survived.
I don't remember coming through here.
For Matt Bradford, it was more than just a chance to say thanks. It was a step towards peace of mind.
I lost both my legs and also my vision. And I know a handshake or a hug ain't enough, but you all pretty much, you know, I owe you all my life.
The next step back in time was to fly over the places where they were wounded.
I'm relieved.
For Ed Salau, it was an opportunity to see what Iraq had gained from his sacrifice.
I needed to see. I needed to see what was going on here. The newspapers weren't telling me what I was looking for. How many schools were being built? How many wells were being dug? Because that's what I was trying to get done. How many imams were getting trucks of fresh drinking water to their villages that I'd promised them so many times? But IEDs kept blowing them up. I needed to see that was fixed.
Is that what you saw?
That's exactly what I saw. I saw people looking to their government for solutions. It was finally becoming Iraq's Iraq, and they were working to make sure the U.S. would leave and they would be okay when it happened. I needed to see that.
The story will continue after this.
Of all the troops, the man most determined to see the scene of his battle was Stephen Cornford.
My whole life since I came home from Iraq has been hell because of that night.
Perhaps it's impossible to understand if you haven't lived it. Cornford scoured maps and strained to see. He was grasping for something, eye contact with the night his nightmares were made of. And touching it again let him begin to let go.
I feel a little more relaxed with myself because one of the things I deal with on a daily basis is I don't even like being myself. I want to get out of my own skin. I don't like being me because I feel bad constantly, and it's starting to go away a little bit. I feel a little more comfortable with myself and with what I've done in my life.
When you go back to the States this time, how do you think you'll be different?
I know I'll be a lot less angry. I'll treat my wife with a little more respect. I won't be so, I guess, snappy with people. I'll be a little more understanding because I always hear people complain about stuff. And it just makes me mad because a lot of people don't understand. They don't see the stuff that they just go about their daily lives while there's still people dying every day for them. And it upsets me a lot. And it just, I'm starting to feel a little better about it. So.
Each man came for a different reason. To remember peace of mind, to see again, to walk out of Iraq. Before their return, the enemy had had the last word. But now, after a week, they'd rewritten that history. This was their proper exit. They were guided by the eyes of others or walked on artificial legs. Those things would not change. But as they left on their own terms now, the enemy was retreating from the battlefield of their minds.